Okay, so today's lesson is going to be about measuring. So it's a little bit more of a dry technical lesson. Maybe for some of you it won't be as fun, but I have to say that, sometimes in drawing we need some of these a little bit more dry technical skills to help improve our drawing. One thing that's good about this is, really it's something that no matter what point you are in your skill level of drawing, that you really will use from here on out forever. Artists use it forever, but it becomes quicker and more instinctual over time. At first, if you don't really spend a lot of time measuring, especially at the beginning when you're starting a drawing, this is a good time to just make it a habit. And the more you get used to doing it at the beginning when you started drawing, the more it will just become habit and second nature, and you won't think about it. It can be really slow at the beginning, but that's okay. Sometimes it's just, patience is a virtue. So why measuring is even important in the first place is for a few reasons. One is to accurately, more or less, draw things in proportion. So, when we have buildings in a square. So here in Rome, I draw a lot of buildings and fountains. It's to have things in proportion to each other. So, they look like the actual scale in relationship to each other. Another reason is it's really a good way to figure out how to make things fit on your paper the way that you want them to. So I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but you've been drawing and it sort of like gets cut off. You can't fit it all onto your page. So measuring is a good way to plan out in advance how to place something on your paper in the way that you want it. Okay, what else? Yeah, and then also measuring, the last thing that's really important is, why it's important, is that it just sort of trains your eye to start looking for accurate proportions. The more you look for something, the more you find it, right? So it's a good way to make you quicker at seeing proportions. So I'm going to show you how we're going to do this. And then we're going to work first from a little photo I took of a piece of furniture in my house because it's rectangular, so it's really easy to sort of delineate and see and use for practice in measuring. And then you're going to draw something on your own. So before we work from a photograph or image, I'm going to show you how to go about measuring. So you need a tool. So normally just use whatever I'm drawing with. Like in this case I have, oh wait, Teresa is saying my video screen has gone black or blank. Is anyone else having this problem? Okay, let me turn, right. Okay, so just a few things of how the actual measuring works, because the way that in which you approach it is actually really important. So you just need whatever it is you're drawing with, or you know what, you can even use, some people use these like skewers, a little stick, or you can just use your pencil. Now the thing about it is you have to use your pencil and look at the thing that you're drawing, and the important thing is keep your arm straight, because if you bend your arm, your proportions, your measurements will be different every time. So the one thing to remember is keep your arm straight. The next thing is always close one eye. And that's because, you'll see sort of double if you don't. So it should come naturally to you to close one eye. We all have a dominant eye, so whichever one seems more natural to close, you want to close. Okay, now, when you go to measure an object, it can be something as big as a building or as small as like a teacup, whatever it is you're drawing. You want to first measure the biggest possible shape, so like the outline of something. right? And so I'm going to close one eye and hold my arm straight. Now, I'm looking at this bookshelf behind me. It's in your screen as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the tip or the edge of my, whatever it is I'm measuring with, like my pencil in this case, and I'm going to put it at the edge of the bookcase. Now, say I'm going to measure the whole width of the thing. I'm going to use, this is the one beginning of the measurement, and I'm going to use my finger to mark the bottom. So now I have my height, and it's sort of, there are all these shelves, and it's a big shape broken into smaller shapes. So I want to measure the overall big shape first. So then I'm going to turn that, and I'm going to compare the height to the width. And actually, they're pretty much the same. I would have thought it was rectangular, but actually my measurement tells me it's square. So then what I would do is I would mark that on my paper. Now, the thing is, when you go to mark on your paper, you don't need the actual, you don't translate the measurement as you measured it, right? It's a proportional relational thing. So you're going to make it just fit on your paper how you want it to. If I only have, let me use a marker. Like if I'm making a little sketch, say I only have this much space on my page, then I'm going to think about what's the best way to make this fit. So what I'm doing is I'm taking a measurement and I'm seeing how can I fit a square. So I would mark the top and the bottom, and then I would turn it sideways and mark the side. So that gives you my initial measurement in relationship to each other. And so it doesn't have to be the exact length or whatever as my pencil. They just have to be in relationship to each other. Okay, so does this make sense so far? Any questions so far? So from there, when you have your initial measurement of height in relationship to width, you're going to just mark that on your paper, how you want it to fit. And then we draw, it's like connecting the dots, the big shape. And from there, you're going to compare it, right, just by eye, by sight. Does it look like the thing that I'm drawing, right? And adjust. So the thing is, this does not need to be perfect. We are not architects, right, or artists. So we want to have more or less, right, the right proportions because it gives a sense of the thing, right? If it's really squat and long, but the thing that we're drawing is narrow and tall, then it doesn't give the sense of the thing because the proportions are out of balance. But they don't have to be exact. Okay, so let's see. Any questions? Okay, so we're just going to practice with something that I took a photograph of. That's pretty easy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have the, I think if I can, sorry. I was going to say I'll have the chat box, but, oh, maybe here it is. So I'm going to keep the chat box, even though you're going to see it on the screen, just so you can either unmute yourself and, speak up. Oops, there it goes. Okay, maybe that's the case. So we're just going to use this as our example to practice drawing in proportions. So it's on your screen, but in your chair, you can sit back and take your pencil, your pen, or whatever you're drawing with. Close one eye, keep your arm straight, and let's measure the width first. Okay, so the tip of your pencil is one end, and then mark the other end, like the side, with your finger and hold that, and now turn it and measure the height. So they're not equal, right? So you can measure the height from either the feet that are on the ground, or you can measure it from the bottom of the drawers. So now what? Okay, so now you're going to, on your paper, right? Try and make some marks about, first, the width. Decide how wide it is and just make some notations. Then measure that and turn it vertical. And note, I've made a square on my paper, and then I add a little bit, right? So this is not scientific. And what you want to do is just get the big shape first. So I've made my lines, and I've made a rectangle, and then I just added the feet at the end. And then I'm going to compare it by holding up my drawing and sort of next to the image and compare and see, are they close? Okay, mine is too narrow. So something that's important to understand about proportions is when you draw them, sometimes something will look too narrow, like I just said in my drawing. But what it really means is it's too tall compared to how wide I've drawn it. So I might not have to widen my drawing. I could just cut off the bottom, right? So the relationship of height to width is always at play. Okay, so I'm gonna, let me see. Okay, so how's it going? Is everybody able to get in the big outer rectangle shape? Okay, now I picked this set of drawers on purpose because it has drawers. So they're like rectangles inside of a smaller rectangles inside of a big rectangle. So what we can do next is I would normally measure where is halfway, right, between the bottom and the top. Where is halfway? And so how you do that is kind of just pick, sorry. Okay, somebody says it's working for me so far. Sandy says, okay, great. So start at the bottom and try and find where is more or less halfway between the top and the bottom. So you can use the foot or you can use kind of the bottom of the drawers. So if I measure between here as the bottom and here as the top, I found that this point here is more or less halfway. So what I could do is find that in my sketch that I've made, measure on my paper halfway, and just make a little mark, right? So then I could break it down again, right? Where's halfway between here and here? So I know, let's get this on tedious. So again, it's like somewhere here. So what I would do is keep breaking down, and these drawers are not all the same size, right? This one's bigger, and these three are the same size and smaller, and these are small. Right, so you can find halfway here. Then you could find halfway between the sides, which I'm gonna guess is here. Yeah, I'll show you my paper, but I'm gonna measure it first. Okay, so yeah, that is halfway. Yeah, let me show you my paper. Somebody asked that. That's a great question, but I've been drawing with a light pencil, so let me draw over it with a heavier line so you can see what I'm doing. Okay. So this is just, not this, but this is just my sketch, right? Like this was my original parameter and it seemed too narrow. So then I cut this off and made the feet, and then I measured. This is halfway between the top and bottom, and then this is halfway between either side. Okay. Questions? So, oh, sorry. Okay, Pierre says nice. Okay, going okay. Great. How about I'm gonna put the picture up again, and why don't you try to draw in the drawers, and I don't have to talk constantly. So I will just take a couple of minutes, like a minute and a half, or how about 2 minutes, right? And the thing is, it doesn't have to be exact, right? So use your observation as well. Like first measure and, mark that on your paper, and then, and then compare, right? Like hold your paper back and then look back and forth, right, between your paper and the thing that you're drawing. So you can come up with sort of jump out. Okay, can you see me? Okay. Okay, yeah, sorry. Someone else in the house is also running a Zoom meeting, so we might be testing our Italian Wi-Fi right now. Okay, so I'm gonna put the image back up again, and I'm gonna leave the chat box up, so just please ask any questions as you might have them. And what we're gonna do is see how far you can get with drawing in the drawers based on measuring. I'm going to move this over here. Okay, and I'm just going to leave it for there, let's say for 2 minutes, and we'll check in and see how it's going. Okay, let's start. Yeah, so somebody's asking about the relationship of the height and the width. So you compare them, you measure and see what you find. I found that, okay, so I'm measuring the width first because I know that it's smaller, I can just see that. And then I'm holding that mark and I'm gonna turn my pencil vertically. And so
if I look from the bottom of the drawers rather than the feet, I see that the height fits, I mean, the width fits into the height. It's like just a little bit taller than it is wide. So it doesn't have to be scientific. So when you go to make the marks on your paper, mark the width, measure the width, and then measure the height, right? Take that measurement of the width and mark it as the height, and then you can add just a little bit more and eyeball it. So it's not very scientific, right? But it's enough to give you, you can see, I think, if it's pretty close or not. Okay, so what point are you at right now? Do you want more time? Do you want to stop? Do you have questions? More time? Okay, how about just another minute? Okay, great. Peter says the height is the width plus the height of one of the bottom drawers. Okay, so then you get into, well, so the bottom drawer, you can measure it by itself and see how many times does the height of the bottom drawer go into the whole height of the dresser. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's one way you can divide it up. That's how I measured it. Okay, do you need more time? Okay, so even if you didn't finish, that doesn't matter, right? The exercise is really just to start to orient your mind into seeing the relationship of one thing to another, right? How, like Peter said, the height is the width plus the height of one drawer. But then you say, well, like, how tall is one drawer? Well, one drawer is 1/4 of the overall height. So is anyone confused?
Anyone not confused? Does anybody want to share or ask questions? Oh, hi.
Hi, we'll share. Wait a minute, we have to see what we can, okay, here we go.
Oh my God.
And
Can
there's
you see?
Michael. Yeah.
Gorgeous. Wow.
Yeah, we're happy with this one.
Yes.
Yeah, it was really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, so it seems pretty straightforward. Yeah. Well, and do you normally measure when you go to draw something beforehand?
I haven't been, but this is really helpful because that is one of the problems I have when I'm drawing. So it is a good lesson for us. For me, I don't know, I'm not speaking for Michael, I guess.
I don't know. It's interesting as a different strategy. I seem to have a kind of intuitive feel about it, and so when I draw, the things fit in and they're proportional, and I don't know. But this,
Yeah, that's great.
yeah,
Yeah, well, that brings up a really good point, which is you don't always have to measure, right? Sometimes you can just use it if you think, if you get to a point where you're drawing and you think something's off, or something looks, or it's not fitting in how I want it, or something seems off and you're not sure what it is. At that point, you could always stop and sort of measure and compare things, right? To see, it's kind of like it's a reality check, a double check. It's a way to override. Sometimes if you've been sitting and drawing and looking at something for a while, you're not able to clearly distinguish, like see with fresh eyes anymore. So measuring can just be something you can also use at any point in your drawing. It doesn't have to be at the beginning. Okay, that was great. Is anybody else want to share or ask questions or anything? Okay, great. So we still have time. Great. So what I would say is now pick something where you are. And it could be like a lamp is a great thing because it has, the shade normally and the bottom part, or a table, a window, a door, piece of furniture. I would say pick something that is easy, that's not sort of soft and mushy around the edges, like no house plants or organic things. Pick something that's man-made, manufacturing-made, that has sort of clear, delineated forms and edges. And you draw it, but make sure and measure and check the proportions and see if this is helpful. And one thing I would say is draw a frame first on your paper. That way you're going to consciously make your drawing fit inside the frame that you delineated. So if I'm gonna draw, I don't know, I have this really tall water bottle sitting on my desk. So if I was gonna draw that, I'd say, okay, it's probably going to be a tall, narrow composition. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw this frame on my paper first. Hopefully you're going to draw it straighter than I am. And I'm going to measure it, and I'm going to make it fit in where I want, right? And if you draw on a single object like this, make it be not floating. And what I mean is like delineate, like is this, where the table is, say this is my object, right? Just make it in a context so that it's not floating in space. Okay, so any questions? Okay, good. We'll just take a few minutes, maybe, well, we have time. How about we'll take like 3 or 4 minutes. I'll say 4 minutes. And pick something around you that's clearly easy to see so that you can measure it, and draw it inside a frame that you delineate first. Great. So someone asked the question, what if the object is at an angle? Do you measure straight or make the pencil contour the object? So this is a great question. Like, so for example, here's my phone. If I was going to measure the proportions, you can actually do either. So I could measure, you know, the height versus the width, and follow the angle of it, or you know, I could do something like this, right? This is my pencil is straight. I would be measuring from here to here, and then so this gets trickier if I do it a straight. So what I would say is, if you measure the height straight, follow the angle in at least one of the measurement directions. Does that make sense? It depends a little bit on what it is.
Yeah.
But usually,
What's happening is
okay.
The angle is away from me, so it's like going into, yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
this or something. Okay, good. So it's foreshortened, so then measure it straight. If it's something like this,
Yeah.
so because this will sort of have your eyes see it, it's like it's almost like an optical illusion, right? So to override that optical illusion, for example, if I wanted to draw this finger that's like coming towards you, measure the height like this, and then compare it.
Okay.
So measure it straight, because that'll also have you see that it's not as tall as you think.
Got it.
I hope that's helpful.
You need to refresh your video again. Just
So, not having a good connection day. Okay, can you see me okay?
better, thanks.
Okay. That was the timer for 4 minutes. Let's just have a consensus. Do you need more time? Just let me know in the chat box if you do. Okay, so since no one spoke up, I would say people generally did enough to not need more time. So let's see, does anybody want to share their drawing or ask questions or just even share observations, you know, like something you learned or saw or noticed in doing this?
Kelly, I was trying to do a box from Pampered Chef that's on an angle to me, and I just couldn't figure out how to measure it. It seems like every time I went, oh, I didn't consider the angle that was away, you know, it's different on the whole thing was on an angle, I guess I'd say. And so as I measured one end, I thought I actually had like height, but as I pushed the pencil over to the other end, it said, no, I didn't have the height. It's a different height at the other end. You know what I'm saying? So what I was trying to do was get the maximum, I guess, dimensions of the box to frame it in, but no part of the box actually fit into it was all like going to be in a perspective.
Yeah, sorry. Could you say that one more time, why it didn't fit in? Because
yeah, so I'm going to show you what I was trying to draw, just by way of demonstrating, I guess. So I had this box. You see it? So it's like a little box. This is my hand, so it's about 4 inches high or so. And I had it like this, say, away from me.
Right.
And at an angle. And so when I used my pencil, you know, I'm going like from far away, and at this angle it's here, but it's actually tilted a little, so the depth is actually down to here. And I just couldn't make my way into a sketch from that point.
Yeah, okay, so this is two-point perspective, and right, it can make optical illusions. Right? So one thing when you draw boxes like that, you can, sorry, I'm trying to get myself back, 1 second. You can be sure that in a box like, in that situation, let me put, the verticals are always vertical. Okay, so this is something that you can count on with a box. So the corner of it is like this. And then it's going to be doing something, you know, like this, right? So what you want to do is find, ideally, right, but the lines are straight, the vertical lines on your example are always going to be straight up and down unless it's on one side. But if it's sitting flat on a flat surface, the verticals are going to be vertical straight up and down. So that means you could take the measurement of one of those verticals and then the height, take the measurement of the height and then compare the width. So this brings up another good point, which is for things like angles or perspective, a really simplified, easy way to find the angles without having to really know all the laws of perspective. This one is pretty easy and is very helpful. So you can use your pencil or stick or whatever you have, and always, you know, with your arm straight, one eye closed, you can find the angle. Now you have to hold your pencil parallel to the thing that you're looking at, which means parallel is like this. So don't lean your pencil like I could find. Sorry, the connection is really bad today. Okay, now can you see me again? Sorry about the connection today.
Yeah, better.
Okay, so finding angles or perspective is easier if you can do using your pencil in the same way, one eye closed, arm straight. You have to hold it parallel to the thing that you're looking at, meaning it's not, your pencil isn't going forward or backwards, towards or away from you. And think of it as the hand of a clock and look and see what time is it, right? And then you can find that angle and sort of translate it to your paper. Now, a really easy sort of simplified way that is not complicated to remember perspective lines is what people call the horizon line is actually just your eye line. So technically, everything is coming to meet your eyes. The whole world centers around you, right? And where you are. If you're low on the ground or if you're on top of a mountain, wherever your eye line is where the sky meets the sea, also known as the horizon. So, except for rooftops, this holds true. If this is your eye line, let me use a fatter pen. If this is your eye line, anything that is above your eye, like rooftops, or if a box is up high on the thing, like up on the cupboard, and you're looking straight, like on Marsha's box, the edge is going to be pointed. Oh, sorry, the connection is really bad today. Is that any better?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm really sorry, you guys. I don't know why the connection is bad today. It was bad yesterday as
When you're
well.
talking about the eye line and how it is in relation to you.
Yeah, so basically anything that is above your eye, like the edge of a box or a rooftop, if it's above your eye, it's going to be, the angle is going to be coming down to meet your eye, right? This is my eye line here. Now, if it's below your eye and you're looking like down on the ground, like the bottom of a building, a sidewalk, a road, anything like that, it's going to be coming, the angle is going to be going up, coming up to meet your eye. Okay, so Marcia, I hope this helps a little bit. I mean, just using your pen or pencil as if it were the hand of a clock can help, you know, find some of these angles quickly. Okay, anyone else want to share or questions? Okay, Marcia says the clock analogy helps. Okay, Mimi says that's really helpful. Okay, good. So obviously it's just it's a condensed lesson, but I think that if you take the time to measure either at the beginning before you start your drawings to see how to, you know, on the page, it also helps you see how, you know, arrange things in your mind before you start to draw. Or, you know, at any point in your drawing, if you think something's off and I'm not sure what it is, take a minute to stop and, you know, compare things by measuring them. How big is, you know, the lamp compared to the desk or the window, right? And finding angles, just use your pencil like the hand of a clock. Now, if anybody wants to do a lesson in perspective, we can definitely do that. It's not complicated. It's just like measuring, you just have to practice until it becomes second nature. Okay, does anybody want to share, have questions? Okay, so the next class is going to be on Saturday, and the class is going to be about shadows. So looking for shadows, the different kinds of shadows, and also different ways to approach drawing them. This is kind of one of my favorite topics, is shadows. I think they give, you know, life and depth to our drawings and paintings. So especially in Italy, we have really extremely bright, strong sunlight. So shadows are a huge part of, you know, showing a sense of light. And having a sense of light is what shows form and, you know, brings drawings to life in the sense of creating three-dimensional aspect to your drawings. Okay, well, that